You know that sound every homeowner absolutely dreads? That sudden drip, or a gush, or maybe just the squish of carpet where it should be bone dry. Yeah, that. Water damage. It stripes out of nowhere, and it can turn your safe haven into total chaos. Okay, let's dive into this and figure out exactly what to do when that unexpected disaster happens.
48. Remember that number. 48 hours. That's it. And look, this isn't just some random statistic. It's a ticking clock. From the second that water finds its way in, you've got about 2 days before a simple water problem starts spiraling into a much more serious and frankly hazardous mold issue. The race is on.
So where does all this water even come from? I bet you're picturing a massive hurricane or a biblical flood, right? Well, the reality is usually a lot less dramatic. In fact, some of the most devastating water damage starts from the everyday things we count on inside our own homes.
And what's so wild is just how familiar all of these culprits are. We're talking about things like old plumbing from the 80s that just gives up, or a washing machine hose that decides to burst mid-cycle. It could even be a slow, sneaky roof leak you don't even know about until that dreaded brown stain appears on your ceiling. Even your crawl space or foundation can let water seep in. It's almost always the silent failures that end up causing the biggest messes.
Okay, let's get back to that 48-hour clock, because this is crucial. That puddle you see on the floor, that's really just the tip of the iceberg. The real, and I mean real danger, is what's happening beneath the surface. The damage that's silently spreading through the bones of your house.
And this shows you just how fast it all escalates. I mean, within minutes, water is soaking into your drywall, your insulation, your subfloors. A few hours later, stuff starts to swell and warp. And then, there it is. Right at that 24 to 48-hour mark, mold spores, which are, by the way, always in the air, they find that moisture and they start to party. If you let it go for days or weeks, now you're looking at serious structural rot and major contamination.
This quote just drives the point right home. It's not just about a wet floor. We're talking about a whole chain reaction that can threaten the actual integrity of your house, from the wood holding it up to the electrical system powering it. So acting fast isn't just a good idea, it's absolutely essential.
All right, so that was the problem. It's pretty intense, I get it. But here's the good news. There is a very clear, methodical solution. So let's look at the strategic game plan that the professionals use to bring order back from all that chaos.
It really breaks down into 3 key phases. First up, emergency extraction. You got to stop the source of the water and get all that standing water out like yesterday. Second, and this is the real game changer, is structural drying. This is where they bring in all the specialized gear to hunt down and eliminate the moisture that's trapped inside your walls and floors. And finally, you've got full restoration. That's rebuilding and repairing everything to get your home back to exactly how it was before.
Now, I know you might be tempted to just grab a box fan and point it at the wet spot. But this right here shows you why that's a huge gamble. A DIY attempt just relies on what you can see and feel. But the pros? They use things like moisture meters and thermal imaging cameras to actually find the hidden water and then scientifically prove when something is completely dry. That difference is what prevents mold, nasty odors, and rot down the line.
Okay, here's something really, really important that a lot of people just don't realize. The source of the water completely changes the rules of the game. You've got to know where it came from, because that tells you the health risk and dictates the entire cleanup process.
So the industry actually has 3 categories for this. Category 1 is clean water, from like a burst water supply line, low risk. Category 2 is gray water. Think water from a dishwasher or a washing machine. It's got some contaminants in it. But category 3, that's black water, and that is the most dangerous. This is sewage backups, river flooding. It's grossly contaminated. Anything porous it touches, like drywall or carpet, has to be removed and thrown away. No exceptions.
So if you're up against that ticking clock and you need to call in the cavalry, how do you make sure you're getting a real expert and not some amateur with a fan? Well, in that moment of crisis, this is going to be your guide to making a smart, clear-headed choice.
The very first thing you need to look for is this acronym, IICRC. This is the nonprofit that literally sets the standards for the entire restoration industry. If a company and its technicians are certified by them, it means they've been trained in all the proper protocols we've been talking about, from knowing the water categories to understanding the science of drying. It's basically your seal of approval.
And this checklist just brings it all together. You want IRCRC certified techs, for sure. You need a company that gives you detailed documentation for your insurance claim. They have to use those calibrated moisture meters to prove the job is done right.
And, just as important, they should be able to explain the whole process to you clearly and handle the entire project from start to finish. That way, you're not stuck trying to play general contractor in the middle of a crisis. So, we'll leave you with this final thought. A water damage situation is a race against time, where the real enemy isn't the puddle you can see, but the moisture hiding in your walls. Knowing the risks, understanding the timeline, and knowing what real professional help looks like, well, that's the best protection you can have for your biggest investment. So, are you prepared?